inspire, empower, grab your girls and soar a little higher, unlock the fire in you, cause real women don't bitch, no, real women don't, 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 real women don't bitch.
Hey, 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 thank you for joining me on the Real Women Don't Bitch podcast. This is your proud host, August Crenshaw, aka Mrs. Raw, Real, and Relentless. I am the #1 advanced mental conditioning specialist for entrepreneurs because building mental muscle is necessary in order to implement successful business strategies. This show has been created for the woman who is not excuse-driven and needs help building a profitable business. I will be interviewing women from various fields who are willing to break the silence on struggles that specifically affect female entrepreneurs. Welcome to a show where I and guest speakers from time to time share our methods that help us beast our business no matter what is going on in our lives. Whether you are an online or brick and mortar business owner, this show is for you. We will hit every angle, personal, professional, and spiritual. Why? Because on any given day, you get hit with shit from a scenario involving one, more, or perhaps all of the above. It all impacts you and your mindset towards your business. I have made it my personal mission to provide a space where we dive deep into the BS we face on a day-to-day basis. Hey, we are back. I said we. The first guest for this season is a returning guest, Miss Pica, everybody. The crowd goes wild.
What's up, y'all? It's so good to be here again, August, really.
Yeah, I'm glad you came back, and I need you. I need a woman of your caliber because you carry the work ethic of a boss with so much class and so much finesse. And so she's like, what in the heck are you talking about?
We are still a whip over here. I'm still a work in progress. Just keeping on.
Yeah, well, whip it good. But at the end of the day, there's still your aura, your persona, your presence has always been very powerful and yet peaceful. And I love that. And so I think there's a lot that people just get from you just from being in your presence, even if you don't open up your mouth. You're just a walking blessing. I felt like this.
Thank you.
She's like, push. And the award goes to Pica.
Wow.
And so, listen, everybody, I've been saying it over and over again. You know what the theme is about. But to really reiterate this, especially since we have a guest that's going to be speaking about it, ladies, you all are in the ER, so we think ER. We think about emergency rooms. We think about, a person that's just overdone it, poor little heart's working, they get the surprise, heart attack, you work so hard, your immune system goes down, and you found out that you caught the cooties that was going around there. You're like, I'm sick. and we want to talk about this. We want you all to have preventative measures in place. And so the conversation, of course, is going to be natural and organic, but we've got to explore, what are you ladies doing? How are you overworking yourselves? Are you really overworking yourselves, or are you working too hard doing the wrong things? Is there mental strain? Is there spiritual strain? Yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, what we want is for you to leave out of the ER with your situation resolved so you don't have to make frequent trips back, let alone a trip at all. So
yeah.
With that being said, Pica, this is your floor, and this is part of your expertise with helping people balance the chaos in life. So you fire away and let's get this thing going.
Well, what I've noticed, August, more than anything else, half the battle is actually recognizing that you have a problem, that you are stretched thin, that you are maybe putting all your effort into the wrong places. Maybe you're being busy, but you're not actually being productive. And I've done that too. I mean, a lot of times we focus on, oh my God, what is the end goal? We look at the top of this mountain like, oh my gosh, I have so much further to go, instead of working on, okay, where's my foot going to go next? And where's my foot going to go next? And where's my foot going to go next? So those are the things that I'm trying to focus on now, because I'm tired of looking at the summit. I'm tired of looking at, how far I have to go left, instead of focusing on the smaller things. So when I break it down into smaller pieces, it's not so overwhelming. A lot of that is all of your mental game, right? You know that better than most. When you have like tons and tons to do, instead of looking at how much you have to do, we should be focusing on, all right, what do I need to get done first? And what little piece can I get done here? And what little piece can I get done there? So it becomes easier when you can break them down into like bite-sized pieces. So recognizing it definitely is one. Admitting to yourself that maybe you need to cut back on some stuff. The other day I had like tons and tons to do, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to get all this stuff done. What's really essential and what can I cut out? And those are the kinds of questions you should be able to ask yourself, and be honest with yourself, and then adjust accordingly. You're allowed to adjust.
Oh, you are allowed to adjust. I love that. I want to go back to something that you said that's really important, and it's about taking that big old goal and then chopping it down. And there's something inside of us, people may look at it and be like, yeah, I'll use myself as an example, because people be like, man, she wrote 4 books. She did all of this stuff, but it was with each letter. It was with each stroke of each character on that page. And there's something about us despising the little things. We so busy hearing saying stuff like, go big or go home, go hard or go home, not realizing that those are just phrases, and that's like for the end. That's like when you at the party.
It feels good at the end, yeah.
Yeah, but but there's so many little bitty things along the way. And so in order to do the things that I did and to do the things that you've done, there were these times where it was like you're just in the lab, and then there were little steps of execution. And so what do you say to the woman who just like, but I gotta get this done, and about her mindset despising those little things and not celebrating or getting excited about the process?
I have the perfect example. I am not a web designer, but I need a website, and I'm not in a place right now where I want to go hire somebody to go do it. I could do it. It's just that every time I say I'm working on my website, it sounds terrible. I just don't want to work on it. So I put it off. But instead of doing that, I should be looking at, all right, what text box doesn't have the kind of copy that I need written in there, and what can I write? Like, it's just a paragraph. And once you get in the flow, like once that first task gets done, suddenly you have the energy. It's like, all right, it's done. What else can I get done? What else can I look at? What else can I adjust? And it's like, not so bad. But that first step is a doozy.
Oh,
wow. I don't understand it, but it is.
No, it is. And you made me think about a client today. I taught that strategy on how you create those awesomely long posts that you swear up and down nobody reads, but your ideal clients do.
But they do.
They really do. And if you're a wordsmith, people be engrossed in them. And sometimes, even though I'm a strong advocate of live video, a lot of times because people are at work and they can't put their screen up, a lot of times they read instead of actually listening to video. And so I teach people to do both things. I'm never, ever just all the way one way left or one way right. And one of my clients, she's like, I'm just not creative. I can't do it. She put her post in the group, and I actually saw it today. And when I read it, I said, creative my ass. This is funny. And she said, but it took me 2 hours to do it. I said, yeah, but you understand the formula. You went through the process. And the next time you do it, you'll just sit down and in, 15 to 20 minutes, you'll just type this out. But everything is a muscle. It's something that you have to actually take the time to work on. Now, at the end of the day, if you're working, your abs, you can't expect to have beautiful biceps. Are you working the right muscle? That's the other thing that you went into. Are you being busy versus being productive? So we got the point that you got to work. You got to take that first step after you admit that you need help and do a little bit at a time. But what about the person who's just not even doing the right thing in the first place?
I think that comes down to being honest about what it is that you want and what it is that you're doing to get it. Like, I think I saw a quote the other day that was saying, I'm not even sure if it was like maybe Steve Jobs, something about, you wake up in the morning and you decide, all right, this is the last day of my life on earth. What am I going to do today that's going to push my business forward, or whatever that goal is forward? So if you can ask that question and be very specific about what it is that you need to move forward, then you can get around to, all right, well, I'm going to go do this. And you think about, all right, well, is washing my face going to get me closer to my goal? Is cooking breakfast for tomorrow going to get me closer to my goal? Am I just filling up the time to say that I was busy today, or am I actually doing stuff that will push me closer to whatever my goal is? Going back to my whole website story, I know that this website is the key to converting clients, to getting people to actually find me and find the solutions that they're looking for in me. And if I don't write for my client instead of writing for me, if I don't write for my client, it's never going to come out the way that I want it to. I mean, as it is, I don't really like writing about myself. You know that, I know that. But I need my client to be able to find me. So I have to put myself in my client's shoes and say, well, what is it that I'm looking for? And I don't want to sound, like I've made it up. It's got to be me at the same time.
Right.
So it takes a little bit. You're going to have to really ask those questions that point you in the right direction. If you're going to be like, I need to be busy, and then like 5 seconds later on, you're on your phone playing on Pinterest, and you're like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm hungry. What shall I make today? And then you make dessert as well as dinner and lunch, and you've done a lot. That's great. I'm really proud of you. But what did that have to do with any of your goals that day?
Absolutely. And I want to add a point of clarity in here, because like I said, I never go all the way left or go all the way right, because there are different things for different people. And so I can already hear some of my folks that's like, why does she keep talking about the website? And for those of you that follow me, you know that I'm really big on you actually meeting people, engaging with people and having conversations. But eventually a website, it does come into play if that's part of how your business is going to be engineered. And I know that one of the things that you do is that you sell products, and you'll have to get traffic to the website nevertheless. But for some of you, a website is imperative. It's important. I've sold high ticket, masterminds, but not had a very beautiful website. The one I got now is smoking hot, but of course I graduated to a degree in my business as well, because I remember when I was like you, I was like, oh, and I like writing. I didn't want to write, and I didn't want to try to put that information out there. But I want to give an example of, someone who had a situation come up and their website was important, because this individual, the type of financial sectors, professional sectors that she deals with, when people are vetting her, they're looking for information, and the expectation is that you have a website. And so for some people, depending on what you're doing, you're going to eventually need that. Your Facebook page, that's not good enough. And unfortunately, they'll shut your stuff down at any given time anyway. You have to have something that's your platform, that's your own. And I'm just throwing this out there because I know I got some witty listeners. She's been doing a lot of work for quite some time. We have crossed the bridge of a year. Ooh.
I know. Yeah.
And so her business is in a different place, and there's some things that she's doing differently. And there was a season when her website was put on the back burner, and it was like, hey, you got to figure out, who your target audience is. What are your signature offers are going to be, and what are your products are going to be. So that was just my little witty bit for my little witty folks, really quick. But I like the fact that you said that you're working on, making the conversation my favorite word, authentic, and that you're gearing it towards those people. And so that's something else that the businesswoman can ask herself. Are you really doing busy work that's all about you? Or are you doing work that is putting a high level of emphasis on what those people that want you are looking for and what they need? So some of you guys may be really busy doing what you want to do, but what do those clients want you to do, or what do they need you to do?
And I'm just going to add on to that, August. The only reason I keep going back to the website is because that's my frog that I need to eat at the moment. I don't like doing it. I don't want to do it, but that's it's like the first and foremost, example that comes to mind at the moment. There are other things out there. I mean, I have filled my days with things just to be able to say that I couldn't get to this because I had all these other things that I had to do. So, I mean, I've done that too, but more often than not, I'm spreading myself too thin. I'm not focusing my energies in the right places. And I know that if I just worked it out a little bit smarter, that I would feel good at the end of the day because I got the things that I really need to get done. So when you're talking about, coming to the ER and making sure that we not only renew ourselves in some way or another, but we also are being productive at the same time. We're executing, we're doing the work instead of just talking about it. It's all kind of hand in hand with that. I don't mind, taking a break every now and again. And sometimes I just have no choice. I just can't function anymore. I need to take a break. But I also need to feel good about why I'm taking a break. And I think a lot of us beat ourselves up about, oh, I took a break and I shouldn't have, and I can't afford to, and all these things. So it's still a good thing. It's still necessary. It's just, how do you feel about that at the end of the day?
Yeah, and I'm feeling you on that. And I'd like for you to talk about that a lot more, because we share something, and that's that we're mommies. And
Yes.
you got these people, I ain't trying to be funny. Like, for instance, I love to listen to Gary Vee. I don't agree with him 100%, but I like him, because when I listen to him, he like, go, get it. But he talks about, you're not a real entrepreneur if you don't do this. And I work 27 hours in a day, but he has a wife that's at home taking care of those babies.
Kids.
So sometimes those people that we listen to and we're getting advice from, they're not necessarily the best place. And so, number one, I applaud you because you're willing to say, look, I don't have it all together. That's the whole point of me having guests on this show. I'm not trying to have someone on this show who has it on together. Almost every single woman has a very, very transparent moment of saying, this is where I'm failing. This is where I'm falling. Hell, I've done whole episodes where I said, I feel like shit. And let me just share with you why, because this is what the journey looks like for real. So yes, you got to take your breaks. You got to feel good about your breaks, because you have a baby that you have to pay attention to, as well as set an example for. So whatever's on your mind in regards to that, let's talk about this feeling good about actually breaking.
And actually, the way you mentioned that, it brought something else to mind. I recently read The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes, and she talked about there's no way you can be perfect, because if you're perfect in one area, you're failing at another. There's just no way around it, because you have to be 100% focused. We're taught to multitask, but it's probably not the best way to go about our lives. It's like you're 20% here and 20% there, and you're not any one place, and it's not the best way to spend your time. So especially with kids, because they watch everything you do, they pick up all your habits, they say all the things you don't want them to say at the worst possible time. But as a mom, I use her schedule in my favor. So that's what I've learned to do. If she's in school, that means I have the house to myself. I have no excuse. I need to just buckle down and work whatever I need to work. But when she's home, it's kind of like my relaxation period, but I also have on another hat. So, working on her homework, making dinner with her, watching whatever crazy cartoon she feels like watching, and laughing with her. That's how I rejuvenate myself. That's how I renew myself. But like I said, yes, I have many hats. I'm not one thing. I'm not just an entrepreneur. I'm also the maid and the cook at home, and the homework monitor, all of that stuff. But because we've finally fallen into rhythm with school, I'm able to use her schedule in my favor. So wherever she's busy, I can keep busy as well. And when she is home, that's where I kick my shoes off a little bit and plan to stay for a little while and hang out for a little bit, and it works out.
And that's a beautiful thing, Bid, because I find so many women see themselves resenting their children while they're building their business. This happened to me this morning. I got up and I'm like, yes, the older one, she's doing work on a computer. The other two smaller ones, they're asleep. I'm going to use this quiet time before I have the session at 10 o'clock. And my daughter comes in and she's like, mommy, come here. And I'm like, oh Lord, what is she gonna show me? I'm thinking that her brother made a mess. And she pulls me into the room and she wants to sit down, and she's like, come on, mommy, be a customer. And I'm like, oh baby, mommy's getting ready to do something really quick. And I need to take care of some stuff, and I'm going to have a call. Mommy's working. Can I do it later? And when I tell you that her face, it got so freaking bad. I said, you know what? I need a burger and some fries and a cupcake, because she's got all this. And her whole world lit up. And my little son, he's grabbing a little skillet, putting the little eggs on a little thing for cooking. And so I was in there probably for about 15 minutes, and I was like, okay, so I'm done now, I'm gonna go. She's like, no, not yet. So I had to stay a little bit longer. And it wasn't that what I was going to do, I had to do it at that moment. I had to pause for the babies. And now they don't even care about mommy. And that's the funny thing, right? Because it doesn't always happen this way. But a lot of times when we give our children the attention that they need for the moment, what feels to you like an eternity, if they can get a solid 30 minutes or maybe even just watch
Yeah.
the movie with you, then after that, they are done. They want their room, they want their toys, they want their friends outside. They don't even care. But somewhere in that creativity, there was a lesson. And so my daughter, you know, she wanted me to be one of her customers. She could have wanted
Uh-huh.
anything else on the planet. And so as a mom,
Uh-huh.
I'm like,
She's
okay,
listening. Yeah.
yeah. So we gotta get excited. And so that's another question, ladies. You know, are you resenting the restoration period because you're not finding joy in the opportunities that you have with your kids? Ouch.
So here's another thing, though, something that occurred to me as you were telling me that story. I want to know now, after you played with your daughter and hung out with your son, when you got on that call, how did you feel? What was that conversation like? That's what I want to know.
And you know what? That would be a really
Mm-hmm.
good question to ask my client, because she was like, I'm on one. She and it's funny too, because she had this like huge cup of coffee. I was like, oh, I want one. And she like, yeah, but and you know what? And she said, but unlike you, I need mine. And I'm like, wow, I guess I'm just so high energy that I don't look like I just wanted a cup of coffee because I saw what was in that cup.
Uh-huh.
You know, but
But
no,
that's
but
what
I
I'm
did.
saying, though.
I felt great.
Because,
I didn't feel resentful. I went in there and we slayed the hell out of that session.
but
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Somewhere in that creativity where you got to be somebody else and pretend to be a customer and have somebody else in charge, you know, and you just get to order whatever you want and see how they whip it up and stuff. Somewhere in that
Yeah.
couple of minutes of play that you did, something released in you, something like let go a little bit and relax a little bit. So then when you got onto that call, you were different than you would have been if you'd have said no and kept on going.
Absolutely. And I always say stress stifles creativity. And so
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times we don't realize that some of the things we do to set ourselves at ease allows the imagination to flow, you know. So, but that's you and that's baby girl. But what about just Pica? What about you and that?
There's a just Pica. Oh my gosh.
That's
Oh,
a tough question for a mommy. There's a just me.
now? Really? This is like this is fun to me because I get to speak to another adult and I don't, you know, it's good.
Hey, and you know what? But that might be part of it. I mean, this right here is, don't get me wrong, there's a residual impact because you're on a podcast, other people can hear you from other places of the globe, yada, yada, yada. There's something that could be good for your business. And we don't do it all the time, but sometimes this is what we do. We're just like, hey,
Yeah.
we could just connect. We hop on an instant messenger or hop in a Zoom video and we talk about nothing and anything and everything.
Whatever comes to mind. Yeah, and you know what? I really do. I love talking to people. And you know this as well because I do a lot of interviews on Instagram. And anybody who's interested, you know, in just talking to me for a little bit, and it's not even because I want anything from you. It's more like, let me showcase who you are. I want the rest of the world to know that you did this and you went through this and you survived somehow. And it kind of gets me excited just to hear you tell it. You know what I mean? Like I really enjoy that. But what I've been noticing a lot lately as well is I'm paying attention to my thoughts a little bit more.
Uh-huh.
And for me personally, this year so far, January, I'm trying to be a little bit kinder in the way I respond to myself. Like, you know, we make some stupid mistake, like, God damn, how dumb can you be? And this is the real that's going on in my head, right? So I'm trying really hard to pay attention to those things because I've forgotten how much we go through, how many, you know, terrible things we tell ourselves, and we don't mean to. It's just kind of like you just, you know, brushing it off or whatever. But it is very mean, and that's something that I'm paying attention to a little bit more. So I guess if you're talking about just Pica, that's what I'm doing for me. This is how I make sure that I'm in a better place a little bit, because if I'm telling myself this, chances are if something happens around me, that's the person who's going to come out of my mouth too.
No, and I love that. And it's funny because did a podcast episode maybe a couple weeks prior to this one, and it was called No Way Out. And on that podcast episode, I was talking about how a lot of times people just want to get out of a situation, but you need to go through it in order to grow through it. And so sometimes the rejuvenation period, it really isn't about necessarily stopping. You have to learn how to rejuvenate yourself even while you're in the process of the doing. And that's mindset. That's your spiritual, you know, analysis of you. And so what you're saying is that in the middle of this, as I'm working to keep me from going into overkill, working too hard, getting too frustrated, feeling too bad, let me go back and pat myself on the back, because I don't really know how to do this website and I don't really like doing this, but I did it. Bam,
Yeah.
in celebrating yourself. So just the mindset shifts alone, you already know mindset, that's the key. You get that,
It
and
is.
everything else. And I love that that's part of the way that you rejuvenate and rebuild yourself back up, because you're mindful of the conversation that you're having with you.
I've worked, you know very well that I've worked in hospitality for many, many years, and I've talked to all kinds of people. And of course, we pay more attention to the people who complain, right? Because they're just the loudest in the room. What I've also noticed is when you're watching those people, you're kind of like, how dare they talk to us like this? And what you don't realize is it also showcases just how much how much character those people have.
Yeah.
There's a saying that says, to judge the size of a man, look at the things that knock him off balance. So depending on how small that thing is that upsets you for you to rant for half an hour, like, was that really necessary? So that's why I'm paying attention to myself and my thoughts, because I find myself losing my tiny things on the inside. No one can tell, but I'm losing my temper on dumb stuff that has nothing to do with anything. Like if someone moves something that they shouldn't have, and why am I upset? Just move it back. People who like to complain about the toilet seat being up, put it back down. I mean, you have hands, you can do it. Just like you
But
put it up,
I'm
you can put it back down.
OCD. I can't help myself.
It's all. I mean, I understand. Some people really do have a very tough time with those things, but it's all about telling yourself, okay, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. We can still work through it. Because the amount of time I waste, like complaining inside my head, or like whining, or just focusing on that stuff, it's not changing. I'm not getting any younger, and I'm wasting time.
Yeah, I'm really big on energy and looking at what that is. And so last year, and you remember this incident, and not to go back down the journey of that particular individual, when you're in tune with your own energy and how you feel, when something's not right, it doesn't even necessarily mean that something is wrong with someone. But there was a person that we both knew, and energetically the things that were coming to me, before she even got an opportunity to like actually get on a call with me, for people to think that I will sell to anybody, I don't. I did tell her, I said, you're a beautiful person. I think that you're great, but there's something energetically that's not matching here. And I just honestly have to follow my intuition. I don't believe that it's good for us to work with each other. And I know that might have been a difficult pill for her to swallow, but
it was.
but it could have also said a lot about me. But who cares whether it was about her, whether it was about me? Maybe I didn't have maybe I hadn't developed enough patience to be her coach.
Yeah, but even then, you were very gracious about it, from what I understood, because I heard the other side of the conversation. I heard your side, and I heard her side as well. And from what I understood, you were very polite. You were very gracious. You said it as kindly as possible, because no one ever likes to hear no. It's just the way we are. We don't want to hear no, but you had a perfectly legitimate reason. You don't actually have to explain why or where or how. But you said, I don't think it's the best idea for us to work with each other. And then it's up to her whether it knocked her off balance or not, which we knew it did. But do you see how little things can totally change the way you see people, the way you go about your day? So not only are we talking about rejuvenating ourselves, but also setting ourselves up for the future, where we are a little bit stronger than we were the day before, and we're able to handle these things that they'll come up forever. There's no ending to people who will say no, or people who will treat you wrong, or do things that upset you. But how you recover from those things is totally paramount to me, because I deal with emotion. So not only do you need to do the work, but you also need to be in the frame of mind where if you get knocked down, which it will happen, how will you get back up? How will you get back to that place where you can continue doing and building and moving forward? So those are the things that are important to me.
Yes, absolutely. And I was thinking about all of those. That's what made that specific situation come back up to me. But what was more important than her, like you said, you're concerned with your inner dialogue. And
Yes.
so my inner dialogue is very high. I'm extremely introspective. And so I don't come to conclusions like that from just saying, I just feel some kind of way. You have to sit back sometimes and say, well, why am I feeling like this? Why am
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
thinking like this? And where is that coming from? Like you said, getting upset about the little things. Go back to the situation with the kids. If I'm
Yeah.
saying no, and I'm like, no, I really need to work. If that would have been my point of reference to say no, I would have had to go back and analyze myself and say, well, why is it I gotta work right now? Because that's not a positive emotion. And so if it's not a positive emotion, what's fueling that? Is it anxiousness, a need for money to get more clients?
Right.
But if I'm content, if I'm at peace for real, if I have faith, if I believe that everything is working according to purpose, then I can say, wait a minute, when I'm saying no, energetically, vibrationally, something's going wrong. That's feeding the wrong thing. When I say yes, then that proves that I'm in this state or I'm relaxed. And so that's why I can say I'm okay. So whether you're saying yes to one thing or no to another thing, it really
Hmm.
just says a lot about how you've calibrated your mindset towards yourself and how you graciously, give in or bow out says more about you than it says about anybody else, says something about anybody else. And that's why I love the fact that I'm giving these different examples because I really want women to get it. That example is paramount. Not that these other things aren't important, but when you start talking about rejuvenation and self-care, people are like, I need to go get a massage. I need to go have a glass of wine. I got to go soak in the tub. But let's just be real. Some of you that are listening to this video, you would be lucky if you can, sometimes you counting the balance in your budget before you even buy a book. You
Yep.
have stretched yourself as thin as you possibly can to start building your business, which is why you will listen to every podcast you can, listen to the live videos, because you're going to use every free tool, free option that
Yep.
you have. And we can't have you thinking that you can't properly have a restorative nature or power inside of yourself because you aren't spending money doing something. And you doing that, that's you keeping yourself at a good frequency throughout the entire day. It's not an appointment on your calendar. And that's why I'm like, damn, that was like such a good example.
It was. And you know what? Let's go back to that list of things you said about how you feel good. You talked about getting massage and soaking in the tub and drinking wine. All of those things are physical. All of those things work with your body. But how many people actually sit down and talk about, all right, well, why do you think the way you do so you feel badly? Because things happen. Shit happens.
Yeah.
They have no meaning whatsoever until we assign the meaning to it. And then it's either good or bad. Let's give you an example. One example I love telling my clients is, let's think about rain. Now, if you have the whole day free and you don't have anywhere to be, you don't have to dress up or nothing, you're in sweatpants or in shorts or whatever, flip-flops, you go outside and it starts raining, you are more likely to dance in the rain and enjoy it. Now, if you got an appointment to get to and you got your hair done, your face is looking good, you got your outfit together and everything, and it starts raining, and you can be miserable trying to avoid puddles and try really hard not to get wet and get to your appointment on time. But what is the difference there actually? It just rained. The earth needs rain, it rains. So it just depends on how you feel about the rain in that given moment that makes it either a good thing or a bad thing. So the same thing, like, yes, it's easy to take care of your body, but no one really worries about your mind. And that's something I'm concerned about, because that thing you tell yourself inside your head over and over again, that's the programming you're running.
Ouch. That that's now I'm in awe. I mean, I totally agree, but there's something about feeling and believing something and hearing someone, like I said, with the with such a divine spirit as yours, really expressing it. Did you guys catch that? She's like, it doesn't even have value until you assigned a meaning to it. So I want to give a challenge out for everybody that's listening to this podcast. Pay attention to your entire day whenever you're listening to it. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're really good, you'll do this on repeat and say to yourself, I am going to consciously be aware of, am I assigning a value to something? Whatever that something is that feels like it got in your way, or even on a positive side that really made you feel good on any other given day, if it would have been something different, with the value of that being positive or negative, and pay attention to what, and here's a good example. If I'm driving and someone cuts me off in traffic, there are some days when I'll be like, whoa, okay, let me let them get by. You know, I have
Yeah.
no idea where they have to go. There are other days that somebody cuts me off in traffic, I'll be like, ready to speed up and want to go in front of them and hit the brakes and tell them you can't go nowhere, you know, like mad, like
Yep.
road rage. Like, how dare you cut me off like that? Other days, I respect the fact that they need to get by. Some days, I'm like, for real? Is this how we're going to do it? Why is that? And so when we're more conscious about everything that's going on around us and how that, and like you said, you deal a lot with emotions, paying attention to that emotional trigger, that charge, what's going on with you, and make a conscious decision to police that thought. And I know we haven't got to your plug yet, but I'm going to go ahead and say this. If you find that you can identify what you're assigning to these different situations, but you can't seem to break that negative thought that you have in your mind, then that's why you need to holler at Pica. You need to say, okay, you know what? I know that I emotionally feel like crap. I'm borderline depressed. Or matter of fact, people are telling me that I'm depressed. I don't even like that title. Or even if you do take that title, but you know you just don't want to be that way, but you feel like you're caught in a stranglehold, this is why you talk to her, so that she can help you navigate through all of that emotional garbage that you're dealing with, and start doing the mindset work with you so that you can get recalibrated, so that you can start experiencing the life that you want to. But that's the challenge I want to issue out to the listeners.
I think it's a pretty good challenge. I mean, and it is one thing that you could do on repeat. And please understand, when I say that, you know, these things have no meaning, it's just because in the real world, they actually have no, it just happens. Things happen. This is just the way it is. And we assign meaning based on the way we feel. And I'm not saying don't feel. I'm not, the end goal is for you not to become a robot and not feel anything, but to pay attention to why you feel the way that you do. Why is it that this particular, maybe it's one particular person and the way they do one particular thing that just pisses you clean off and you just can't see straight. You just want to throw things. And that's cool. That's okay. That's understandable. But you need to figure out why.
Yeah.
Do they remind you of something else that happened in your life? Is it something that, you know, you've tried very hard to be nice and kind to that person, you just don't get it? Sometimes it becomes something as easy as telling them, I do this because I enjoy doing this, and for some reason I don't think you appreciate it. And it's very embarrassing, and it's something that we don't like doing, to, like, you know, to come out our mouth and say, I like this, or I prefer it when you do this, because you don't want to spoon feed them. What's the last thing you want to do is like, well, I don't want to tell you how I like it, because then you're going to do it because I told you, and then it's not because you want to do it. Because, so
yeah, you can't win for losing.
So things do happen. Yes, you're going to have an emotional response to them at some point. And it's not to say that you're wrong or right, but you really do need to think about why it's changing the course of your day. That's where I want you to take a look at it.
Absolutely.
There are some things where, you know, you see butterflies and you're like, oh, wow, butterflies, you keep on going. It didn't stop you in your tracks, but it was kind of nice. And, you know, maybe somebody bumped into you by accident. You're like, oh, okay, you know, and you just keep on going. Like you said, there are some days where you're just like, all right, cool. And some days like, excuse me, do you not see me standing here? Hello. So
yeah.
It just depends on what's going on that day. And bringing it back to your kids as well, your kids will always want your attention. And honestly, it's not for that long. You maybe have a good 10, maybe 15 years where they want your attention. And after that, they could care less what you do as long as you let them do what they want to do.
Yes.
So a lot of times when you want to get stuff done, understand that they're doing what is in their nature to do. They are seeking your attention. They're seeking your approval. They want to share it with somebody that would be so proud of them, that would be so excited to see their, you know, whatever they've created or whatever they've drawn up. And if you can just pay attention to why it is you want to snap, then you will understand where the problem is.
Yes.
And I'm not saying you're the problem or they're the problem, but the priorities, what you want, and the timeline you've given yourself, a lot of times, these things don't have a timeline. You said, I could do the interview later. I could be a couple minutes late. It wouldn't be a big deal, but that value comes from you assigning it yourself. It's urgent. I must do it now. And a lot of times the rejuvenation process for me is some kind of stupid curveball happens out the blue and I'm not going to make it on time. And I know I'm not going to make it on time. There's no use in rushing anymore. So I'm just going to go with the flow. So for me, going with the flow kind of allows me to readjust. It's kind of like the universe saying, yo, slow down. What the hell are you trying to like rush all this for? It's going to take time anyway. Just enjoy this.
I got to give an example to piggyback off of that. I remember I was in a session with one of my clients, and this was one of those times where life was really dominoing on her. And she was very upset. And she's like, yeah, but I got to do this and I got to do this. And I was like, sweetie, the world is not going to stop. And I
Yeah.
was like, look, yeah, I know I told you and I taught you to show up like a boss and to be consistent and to post and do your videos. And I had to remind her that in the beginning, that was basically to break you in, to get you used
Yes.
to using the language, to get you used to having that muscle of consistency. I don't nobody care if you're not live every single day of the week, stuff like that. And so when we crossed that bridge and she's like, yeah, I know. I said, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. It's your life. You do what you want to do with it. But when you and I get off of this call, you need to shut down. You need to shut everything down. You don't need to talk to anybody. You don't need to do anything. You really just need to give yourself a minute to breathe. And she was like, yeah, but, and I had this meeting set up with this one person. I said, well, tell them you'll reschedule. Well, no, and I wouldn't feel right if I did that. I said, you're not listening to yourself. I said, my earring. I said, I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm listening to what you're saying. And based on you in the ER, she was in the ER back then, your doctor is prescribing a day off. And she was so resistant to it. And so the next week when we came into our session, I said, so how was everything? Well, it wasn't even the next week because we spoke a couple of days later just to touch base. I was like, how was it? And she was like, you remember that meeting I was so bent out of shape about getting to? The person slept through it. They never came and got on the call. And I said, see, so energetically, that's the thing that we don't even sometimes pay attention to. Like when you say that you're running late and when it seems like everything is spiraling out of control. On those days when I say, look, I know we were supposed to meet, but this is not going to work or something's happening, there's usually a domino effect where a person's like, oh my God, thank you. I was trying to figure out how I could work this in too, but I needed that. And so a lot of times you all, and I say this as a person who's a time fanatic, I am still very conscious of time, but that was something that I had to let go of. I had to let go of everything's got to be on time. If you said we were going to meet at 5, I'm there at, 4:45. And for the most part, I am still really early, but it doesn't always work like that. And so just trust and believe and know that everything is always working out for your good. And in those moments when you really need to listen, and you need to fall back, everything else is flowing right there with you, but you haven't given it the opportunity to. You're forcing something that you really should let go of. And like you said, I'm late. That's all I can do. And there it is. I'll do what I can and well.
Once I had kids, I kind of just gave up on being on time. It was like Indian Standard Time. I get there. If I have my pants on, it is a win.
Oh, God, that is so true. And then the only other thing I will say to you, being a mom who has an adult, a teenager, and 2 young children, I'm dealing with the cycles coming back up again. And I found myself being highly agitated because I'm going through that teenage crap, with my teenager again. And I had to have that moment of reflection and say, you know what? There's an old saying, that which angers you controls you.
Yeah.
Why are you being angry? Why is that bothering you? And so I have found myself getting back to that place as a parent because I could, I had to ask those questions. Why is it bothering you so much? Oh God, it's just like when I went through this with my older daughter. No, it's not, because that was her. Separate that. Now you've got another one, and there's this. And when I made the decision not to allow what was going on with her, not to take it personal, you just trying to ruin my day. You just won't be a smart. Just let it go and say that I'm not going to let that control me. And you're in the process of designing your life. I'm going to do everything I can as a parent to get you where I believe you should go, but you have the right to live it the way you want to. As I began to relax, she also has relaxed. We were high-fiving today and she got 100 on a science and math and a social studies quiz through this program that she uses. And she can't stand social studies or science, so let's really high five, 100.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
But honestly, I know that has to do with her focus and her effort. But part of what allows her to have focus and effort is also not the stress of, okay, I got to get in here. I got to do this right. Because if I don't get good grades on this, mommy's going to be, the stress, it compiles. and I'm not trying to have that element in my home. I'm very conscious of my energy. I'm raising her to be conscious of her energy. Well, it's going to backfire, and I'm going to be hypocritical if the exception is, though, but when you get on my nerves.
Right. But that also is because it's not the only thing that's getting on your nerves. There's a couple other things that are getting on your nerves, and this is just adding to it. I wanted to jump off of something else you said, though, when you said that, when your energy is like relaxed a little bit, she kind of feels a little more able to hit those expectations that she's got for herself, and then that she knows that you have for her as well. And what I've realized with kids is they will rise to your expectations. Now, there was a time where I would, Lord, it was very terrible of me, but I would promise things knowing full well there was no way she was going to be able to get this thing because she was going to screw up at some point, and I just knew it. So I was like, yeah, you can have ice cream for dinner if you can get your homework done in a half an hour. Yeah, it's not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen because you're going to sit there and complain about the questions you had to answer. But that was wrong of me, and because I expected her to fail, she was failing, and then she'd be mad, and I'd be mad, and we'd be mad, and it was just terrible. When I had my younger daughter, I realized that if I came at her where I was already like kind of frustrated that she wasn't getting her spelling done and she wasn't able to learn the spelling words, if I tell her off, she is the kind that will like shut down and like look like a deer caught in a headlight. So I could feel it, and it made me very sad to see that. So I had to change my energy, and when I congratulated her on the few things that she did get right, she'd get more excited and she'd get more and more right. So it was like I had to change my energy when I approached her so that she would feel comfortable enough to make mistakes and comfortable enough to, not get told off, because she was in a learning process just like we are. I mean, no one's there to tell me off when I screw up my website, but I know because no one's contacted me.
Girl, stop. Look, y'all already know we're going to have a sidebar after this podcast.
I'm just picking. It's going to be fine.
She's good.
I'm putting it off.
She's good. Look, you are absolutely amazing. Totally in awe and floored by the interview. I know the ladies are going to be impacted. Tell them where to find you.
Mostly, you can find me on Instagram because I'm most active on Instagram. So if you look up RASATH1, it spells out Rasath1. That's actually the company name. I'm on Facebook as well. I'm on SoundCloud. I'm on YouTube. I don't have enough followers for you to search, but you can search Rasath1. Anywhere on Google, you'll find me. Website is also rasath1.com, so it's coming. It's there. You can see all the mistakes. It's all good.
But tell them about SoundCloud so they know why they should follow you there. Tell them about your podcast.
I would be so thrilled to have you follow me on SoundCloud because I started a podcast in 2017, and the expectation was that I would do this every day for I don't know how long. And the first year, I did really well. I think I did about 160 episodes back to back every day. And it was nice because the point was to chronicle my journey as an entrepreneur, like the ups and downs, the stupid things that happen, all the crazy relationships, the people that were in my circle, not in my circle, will be in my circle continually, all of those things. So I want you to be able to follow my journey from start till whenever I decide to stop all this. Probably never. But at least it's little things I've picked up along the way. Sometimes you'll repeat lessons because, until you learn the lesson, you get them repeated. And sometimes it's just, I can't believe I've come this far. So I actually celebrated a win last week. I hit 350 episodes on this podcast, and it has been a hell of a journey. So, I don't see myself stopping anytime soon.
Yes, go listen to her. When I ran into you on IG, I would immediately, and that's me, I'm all about connections. I immediately went to the podcast and started listening to episodes, and I was like, I like her. I love her. Oh my gosh, she's mad. I was like, well, every episode. So you guys, it's quality. It is. It's quality. And we learn from one another's journeys. That's why I have guests on here to talk about the journey. So yes, go find her on SoundCloud as well. Log in and listen to her. Like I said, if you all have some issues with your mindset, you're emotionally triggered, and you need someone to take a stronger deep dive into that side of your life, Pica definitely is your girl. So thank you for.
I appreciate it. Thank you. As always, fire conversation. And we just talked about pretty much, we hit every possible aspect of life we're doing. except
Man,
for cooking.
did we know we business, mindset, children,
Hey,
baking?
we're not one thing. This is the whole problem.
Yes, exactly. We needed it all. So, ladies, you all should be good. Hit me up on social media, wherever you're listening at. So, whether you're on IG, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, wherever, if you're listening on iHeart, Spotify, you guys, we're everywhere. iTunes, put some comments up there. Let Pica know how you feel, what you thought about what she had to say, what I said. Let us know if you took the challenge. Did you do it?
Yeah, we would love to hear. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. I would love to hear that.
feedback. Let us know how all of that worked out. So all of her links are on the website, so you can go find her. I enjoyed you immensely. Ladies, we're about to get
All
out of
right.
here. So
Thank you, August. Bye.
you're welcome. Thank you for joining me today. Remember to cultivate a mindset that is biased towards taking action. No bitching, whining, or complaining. Here, our mantra is, real women don't bitch, we get shit done. See you next week as I continue to bring you what you need to keep your head in the game and beast your business. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Would you like a specific topic covered? Have a question you would like answered live? Then head on over to realwomen.don't bitch podcast.com. Subscribe to my email list, hit me up, and I got you. Interested in being a guest speaker? You walk the walk? Then you can sign up on the website too. This is your #1 advanced mental conditioning specialist for entrepreneurs, Mrs. Raw, Real, and Relentless. Signing out. Deuces.
Inspire, empower, grab your girls and soar a little higher. Unlock the fire in you.